So let's say you're a fan of Kamen Rider Fourze's toy line. You're starting to build up a set of Astro switches, and now that you have more than will actually go in the belt, you need a place for all the spare ones to go. Well, for you, there are a couple options. The first one is to do what I did and build your own display here. It only takes about a month's worth of planning, $40 worth of foam board, $20 worth of glue, the cost of all the material, a really sharp X-Acto knife, and 6 trips to the emergency room. But all that aside, there is still a problem with this design. It has no handle. Right. That means it can't go on the go. You are a collector on the go. You need to go. And that leads you to option number 2. What you need, my friend, is an Astro Switch Kabon. I don't know what a Kabon is either, but this certainly is a fine example of one. Now, the first thing you probably notice is that while this is show accurate, it is a little bit squat. And you can tell that because the Kamen Rider Club sticker is a little large for the face of the briefcase. It's not a big deal, but it is something to notice. It still looks show accurate, though. The other thing you probably picked up on is this is really glossy plastic. In fact, you can probably pick up a reflection of my hand waving in the upper left corner there. That's kind of strange. It's rare I come across plastic that's this shiny. It actually means that it picks up fingerprints and oil from your skin really easily, so that's a little bit of a downside. Not a big deal, though. What I actually really like are that the corners and the handle and the latches on the top are all made of sterner stuff, so to speak. It's a matte finish, and it's not the same type of plastic, so it's probably going to withstand markups a lot better. And that's a good thing, because those corners are what touch the surfaces when you set it down, in any position. From the back here, we can see the normal 4 shapes here. Yes, it looks like a PlayStation motherboard. It just does. That's the outside. We're not interested in the outside, though it does look quite nice. Let's take a look on the inside. The clasps, they are hinged on, rather than just folded over plastic like a cheap plastic case you would see here. So that's a nice surprise. Opening it up. Ooh, the hinge is ratcheted. It does want to stay straight up, I will say that. However, a little bit tricky. If you tilt it back, the lid will fall backward. It doesn't break anything, but it isn't quite tight enough to hold this position securely. If you leave it alone, it's fine, though. Now, what you're actually looking at in the lid is a false computer terminal, which is pretty much just a sheet of cardboard very nicely printed out. I actually really like this green glow around all of the white lettering and detailing. It does give the impression that this is an active monitor of some kind. Let me zoom in through this just so I can take you on a tour of everything that's displayed here. For starters, well, QWERTY keyboard, that's obvious. You know, all the letters exactly where they should be. Over to the right, we have specific switches for mail and voicemail. Important enough to have 2 different ones, okay? Moving up, that is a display status for the Power Dizer. Great, so in order to accurately play with this toy, you also need the Power Dizer toy, just so you can pretend to control it. Bandai marketing. Evil. Over to the right, we have the 3 modes in their own separate little windows. I assume you just drag and drop to change modes here, which is quite convenient. There's the vehicle mode. There's the tower mode. I'm going to go all the way over here now. Radar module signal strength. A dial, which has absolutely no indicator on it. And up here, let's see, zooming in, we have sound wave from chart survey. It's a sound wave from chart survey. I've heard of a form chart. I've never heard of a from chart. Okay. Gotta love your English now, don't you? And down here, what amuses me even more than the from chart is that you have a number pad, but instead of being styled like a calculator, it's styled like a phone. You can actually make a phone call on this thing. Hello? Oh, dude, I told you not to call me on this thing. It's embarrassing. Looks like I'm talking to my lunch. But the top is just pretty to look at. It's not what we're concerned with. No, we're concerned with what happens in the base. This is where the switches are kept. And as you can see, there's only enough spots for 10 of them. That's even less than they show in the series. I think the Kabon gets a lot of flack because, to put it bluntly, it's not this, the O-metal holder. For a relatively cheap price, if you could get it at retail, it was a very nice and very stylish way of holding a complete collection of core metals. This was incredibly cool. Not only did it protect them all from the elements, it was just really nice and really convenient. You can store this pretty much anywhere. But that's pretty much because the metals are universally sized. It's easy to come up with a simple storage method for them. If anything, the switches prove that they can't be stored in any conventional manner. I mean, take a look at this display. I designed this to hold all of the normal switches, even the writer ones, but that still doesn't take into account the Magphone, the Super Rocket switch, or any of the larger size switches that are coming out. And still, this thing is enormous. It doesn't protect them from the elements. It's not portable in the least. I mean, there's still a lot of flaws even with this. I had to clear an entire shelf just to have a place to put this. To have something for switches that did the same job as an O-metal holder is absolutely unrealistic and unfeasible. You'd end up paying $200 for a plastic box. That's not realistic in the least. No. It's unfair to judge it that way. Instead, you really need to see it for what it truly is. The Astro Switch Kabon is a travel tote. Now that we better understand this toy, let's demo it. For starters, I will show you that this is foam rubber, just like the stuff they line the O-metal holder with. However, it's not actually meant to hang on to the switches, no. Instead, they're meant for, well, the same kids that are meant to play with a plastic tote, because this way, you're not going to harm the switches or the case itself fumbling around trying to get it into one of these sockets. Instead, holding on to the switches, a very nice plastic spring-loaded latch. And these things are securely in place. I mean, turning it upside down, trying to shake them out, they're not going anywhere. They are in there. I love that. Now, technically, all of these slots are universal because they only take the base of the switch, not the part that is shaped for a specific slot on the Fourze driver. So any switch can go into any of these, though there are a few limitations. Fire, for instance, is a pretty big one. If I lock it in over here, it's getting in the way of the side of the case, which means when I try to bring down the lid, it doesn't close. That ring is just sticking out too far. That's why the top row only has 2 slots. The one on the right is specifically made for fire, so that ring stays well out of the way. Aside from that, pretty much any of your switches will fit, though there are a couple of exceptions. For instance, hammer, and the other one, spike. They are very, very tall switches. To close it now, it wouldn't go. They only close when they're in the active position. Other than that, there really isn't a limitation. It'll hold pretty much any of them outside of the big deluxe electronic ones. Now, my personal favorite use is to use it to store my writer switches, which do tend to be quite a bit more expensive than your usual ones, so a little extra protection doesn't hurt, especially if you're like me and you plan to go to a convention to show off this belt to a few con buddies. I want to show off as many Henshins as possible, and this will give me a really good number of those. But there's only one switch that some of you are concerned with. Winch. The one that actually comes with a Kabon. You can see the logo there, nice little hook design behind the number 16, the red arrow in the metallic red, and obviously very bright green making up the top. The switch this time is a hook that must be pulled, i.e. an extension of the winch. So, let's give this a demo, since I'm sure you just want to hear the noise. Right arm lights up, we pull up. Generic noise, I believe. A little bit disappointing. Shall we? Now there's actually a bonus feature on the back, which is very simple, but still really unique. The centerpiece here can actually be lifted up on a little plastic clasp there, and now you have a display stand. Just the right size for holding on to one of your Forza module change figures. Now this, yeah, it's just a metallic swirl sticker just to give him a bit of an effects stand. It might seem a little bit simple. However, it's not limited to just that. You also find little pegs around each one of the shapes. That means you actually have storage room for more of them. If I can get them in there without tipping over base states. Yep, there we go. That will securely hold up to 5 figures. And you're not limited to just these. And this is why I find this to be something of a special gimmick, because in reality these budget line action figures have actually been able to do this for a while. Take Oz here. He has holes in his feet too, but never did a toy come out that could actually utilize those. Now he can. And I believe the Double series can do this too. I'm not sure if Decade series can. It's very simple, but considering it's the only toy I've found that actually does use those holes in their feet for something, I can't help but actually be impressed that they finally did something. And it does allow it to do something while it's holding your favorite Astro switches. So, you know, I can't fault it for that. No room for rocket states, but that's just a movie form. All the main ones can fit on here. In the end, I know that this isn't going to be for everyone. Let's face it. It was designed for Japanese kids who are going to take their Switches and their Forza drivers around with them wherever they go. Playground, friend's house. They're going to need a secure place for their Switches, and that's exactly what this is meant to be. For us American collectors, it is very situational if this is going to be necessary for you or not. I would recommend it to anyone who is taking it on the road, whether you're trying to show it off to a friend, where you're taking it on a move or a long road trip, or, what is probably most likely, if you want to take it to an anime con to show off. That's what I'm going to do with it. I'd also recommend it to anyone who is only interested in collecting the DX toys, because you're only going to get a few Switches anyway, and this is probably going to be plenty of storage for those. Also, if you just want a few of your favorite Switches, 10's probably all you need. And yeah, you can scoff at 10, but let's be honest with ourselves. If it was any bigger, it'd be way too expensive for its function. This is probably the best balance they could have shot for. 10 is still a fine number, it'll still hold all your best Switches, and it's very nicely sized and priced accordingly. All in all, it does what it's meant to do, and it does it really well, even if it isn't exactly for American collectors. I got this at HobbyLink Japan, of course, where you can get yours too, and I know there are a bunch out there who are really only after this because it comes with that DX winch switch. If you're wincing at the possibility of getting this just to complete your Switch collection, hopefully, I've helped you see that this might be worth it just a little bit more. As for me, I have this thing to fill up still. And, yeah, I've got that too. I'm going to have to do something with both of them eventually, aren't I?